Back in the ancient times of just over 3 years ago, I did an episode of my show, Sexy Stages, about the city of Midgar from Final Fantasy VII. Naturally, I sucked butts at writing back then and really only managed to say something along the lines of, "It's so pretty and depressing, and I'm dark and edgy, so I like depressing. Here's some random footage of me hugging a tree. Yeah, you fucked that tree, sonny." Nowadays though, I'm like the fucking God King Emperor of YouTube game reviews. And thus I will attempt this video concept once more and maybe perhaps actually explain myself properly this time whilst also sitting way too close to the microphone. Pretentious transition. Built by the Shinra Corporation, Midgar is a big round pizza in the sky, suspended by all manner of cyberpunky pillars and powered by Mako reactors slowly sucking the planet dry. Beneath the pizza though are the slums, an entire additional cityscape built upon lifeless dirt fueled by battery acid, garbage and constructed out of trash entirely. And here is where the opening sequence of FF7 takes place. A 6-hour-long opening sequence, I might add, and so you'll end up getting attached to this toxic shithole whether you initially liked it or not. It doesn't matter if you're on one of the many trains filled to the nook with punks and bureaucrats, or if you're hanging out with the prostitutes and pickpockets of the dingy-ass wall market, the game wastes no time in making clear what type of place Midgar is. Like, at one point I'm pretty sure you straight up watch a couple commit ritual suicide.
I've had it. Me too. You know, this is the first time we ever agreed on something? Yes. Well then, shall we? Yes.
What? The city itself is comprised out of several sectors, all of which with a top and a bottom connected by train cars, stairwells, and abstract garbage pile-up thingies. And at the center of it all sits the Shinra headquarters, home of the evil businessman and local teddy bear, President Shinra. Midgar is not a happy place. It is, in fact, but a shadow of what it once was. Posters and billboards of lavish plays, movies, and concerts still line the streets, yet they look out over nothing but paupers who can't even afford to go. Some take to selling flowers, others look for, refurbish, and sell junk, and some may choose more, sexual solutions. Still, just when you think you've got some footing, the government screws you over, serving as a nice and violent reminder that life here is futile and that you might as well be better off dead. Before you die though, you might want to take in the graffiti art and tags slowly taking precedence over the billboards. Normally, nature would have reclaimed the rundown buildings, but due to the Mako reactors, the ground surrounding Midgar is but a dried up and shriveled mess. And so, the urban trash heap gets plenty of room to flourish. And flourish, I'd still most certainly say that it does as well, cause I don't know man, when I see a house made up entirely out of scrap metal and cardboard, or a shop with a counter constructed from a ventilation shaft, or a hotel run by a spunky kid with a red cap where the cleaning lady seems to have behind her shoe, and her gun holster, and her beer, and her cigarettes, I can't help but admire the craftsmanship. There's a lot of post-apocalyptic or cyberpunky crossover style fiction, but typically those either go for max desolation and often stretch the believability of what can be built out of garbage, Fallout 4, or make it so that the government has taken hold of everything, resulting in all-out uniformity. But Midgar does both. The top plate has opulent European-style housing and technologically advanced interiors, but the slums really do have nothing but scraps. There isn't a single bit of architecture that doesn't feel in line with the idea of a populated trash heap. For one, there's a literal graveyard of trains, which Yeah, looks about as lively and fun as it sounds. Out of all locations, this is the one they decided to feature in Dirge and World of Final Fantasy for some fucking reason, but I guess it does represent Midgar's overall theme pretty well, being cancer. In the actual game though, it's only like a 5-minute 2-screen section with a few monsters and one whole puzzle thingy, as it's just one of the many things making up this pizza as a whole. I suppose when going with that analogy, the crust would be the most interesting part, which, I mean, that's one weird fucking pizza, but if it was some normie-ass margarita-looking stage, then it wouldn't be worth covering. Like, at one point, you're literally parkour jumping over mountains of Garbo that houses the only church left up in this place. And while I'm not no religion, I do know that by the time your churches are run down, your city may have a little bit of an issue. The entirety of Midgar just looks like the government gave up halfway through building it, as the only highways you see, besides the one on the upper plate, has abandoned construction vehicles and road signs just sitting there. Like, one day they just got a phone call from the president saying, "Yeah, no, fuck that. Midgar doesn't need roads." Also, there's like a hand. I don't know why his hand, but there is hand. Okay? Nothing, however, quite sums up the state of this city than this playground. It's like one of those iconic areas now and stuff, but man, just the fact that there's this grimy-ass porta-potty looking thing next to the swings probably already says enough. And if not, then I'm sure the African sweatshops would be more than enough to deter any parent from ever taking their kid there. If that child hasn't already died from fucking dysentery or has been kidnapped by the blatant human trafficking circuit running through it.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the official Midgar City tour. Try not to let it depress you too much.
Even in the slums though, shit ain't all bad. The wall market for one is slightly less crummy, boasting actual real buildings with real interiors. Reason being is that this is where all the money is. And if the buildings are clean, then you can say for sure that the fucking money isn't. Well, to be fair, I don't think that the various ramen stands and clothing shops are necessarily laden with criminal activity, but near the entrance sits a fucking brothel owned by the one dude in this shithole with a mansion. Don motherfucking Corneo. So, if you're unlucky enough to be born here, but lucky enough to be a cutie girl, then you too can apply at the Honeybee Inn, where you'll be screened by the Don himself or given to the henchman, cause that's just how classy this smug mohawk-touting bastard really is. Fitting, huh? That the only nice-looking place is also arguably the worst. I mean, if you go south down the highway, or what's left of it at least, you may or may not find another town district thingy that may look like absolute fuck. What with this one sickly dude living in a pipe and this store being run out of a fucking rundown trailer of all things, but at least the people there are nice and the vibe isn't quite as scummy. The wall market just looks like it smells bad is what I'm trying to get at here. Steaming pipes and puffing ventilation systems line the streets while the shitty neon signs and the sweaty horny dudes steam up the place proper. Also, Korea is totes canon in the Final Fantasy universe, I guess. If you don't like hiking the highways and trotting the dirt paths, however, one can always take the train. You see, Midgar prides itself in its fabulous railway system after all, as evidenced by the info screens in every cabin detailing the mastery of craftsmanship at display here. It would be nice though if they could stave away the muggers, and maybe also if the fucking alarms wouldn't go off every minute because of all the faulty ID cards people are made to carry, but what can you do, right? Oh, and this guy, he lives here. Make yourselves at home. Because if you want, then get ready to be rushed out by the fascist bully boy guards so you can spend your time rotting away in the dingy rat-ridden subway systems. The deeper you go in Midgar, the shittier and industrialized things seem to get. Like, more than half of the underground consists out of awkwardly suspended girders fallen over scaffolding and ventilation shaft after ventilation shaft after ventilation shaft. And should you somehow survive this detour and make it out alive, you could always end up in our lusciously green sewers infested with mutated crocodiles, or unwillingly enter one of the many Mako reactors. You only get to see 2 reactors in Midgar itself, but what you do see paints a very industrial and above all, militaristic image. Besides being laden with mecha death machines, the oppressive atmosphere and the serial numbers on the various pipes and dinkies makes it look like some type of Russian doom apparatus. Not a very welcoming vibe, to say the least. Really hammering home that this shit's maintenance only, and even then, they're still pretty lonely. Rhymes! Cause, I'ma be real here for a sec. These reactors do not look well kept, with the blatant rust coating every inch of these fuckers. In fact, I feel pretty safe in saying that if Avalanche wasn't blowing these things up, then they'd have probably gone out of their own accord sooner or later. And see, that's kinda the main theme of this here city, being that the Shinra and its plump president do not care. They only see profit and power. And besides, they've already set their sights on building Neo Midgar, so the current one can rot for all they care. It's like, Final Fantasy VII doesn't really do dungeons, but Midgar is as good as one entirely. Weird fucking mutants roam the desolate streets, there's plenty of sex dungeon iconography to go around, and the final boss, aka the Big Cheese, is nothing but a big fat tyrant. Bitch doesn't even have the common fucking decency to show up for his own fight, as he actually dies before you get to probe him properly. Thus kicking off the main story for the rest of the game going forward. Blasting out of Midgar in a high-speed action movie chase. But yeah, I fucking love this place, dude. Despite the fact that it's one big fire hazard and viral outbreak waiting to happen, I'd love to visit it sometime if a game would ever give me the opportunity again. The Mexicano pimp X Mad Max BDSM fashion crossover, the grimy Asian alleyway influences with the neon signs and the food stands, the smoky pipes and the SARS vibes, all collide to make such a pleasing fucking image to me. It's unique, I guess. Very much a product of its time, sure, but a vision all on its own nonetheless. As is the rest of the game, which I love as well. So much so even that I may or may not do a retrospective on it one day, covering it and all of the bullshit that it spawned over the following decade.
Retrospective next week.